You're standing in the kitchen after dinner. Your phone lights up again. It's the third "Are we okay?" text this week. You already reassured them yesterday. You already said everything was fine. But your chest tightens anyway, because now you feel responsible for making them calm again. You say you're patient. You say you're supportive. But you're exhausted. You keep answering reassurance questions because you're afraid that if you don't, something will break. Here's the sentence you will use today instead of another long explanation: I care about you, and I'm not going to keep re-answering this tonight. You send it. Your pulse spikes for a moment. Then something subtle happens. The conversation doesn't spiral. You don't write 3 extra paragraphs. 10 minutes later, you're not composing emotional essays in your notes app. Your nervous system drops 1 notch. The world doesn't collapse. Educational content inspired by classical Stoic texts. Not medical, psychological, financial, or legal advice. This won't rush you, but it will keep you from spiraling. The anxiety of "Are we okay?" is not really about information. It's about safety. And when you keep providing external reassurance, you accidentally train your nervous system to depend on it. The more you answer, the more the question returns. This is costing you quiet. It's costing you dignity. It's costing you presence in your own life because part of your mind is always waiting for the next emotional check-in request. You're present in the relationship, but you don't feel steady inside it. By the end of this, you will interrupt reassurance loops with a short grounding routine, communicate stability without over-explaining, and feel calmer because security starts growing inside you instead of outside you. If this kind of practical emotional steadiness is useful to you, subscribe so you don't miss the next lesson. Subscribe for calm clarity, not motivation. First, you'll see why reassurance-seeking actually increases anxiety instead of reducing it. Next, you'll learn a self-grounding sequence that replaces repeated checking. Then, you'll practice one steady sentence that builds respect instead of dependency. Finally, you'll apply it in a real pressure moment where your old pattern almost takes over. Later, you'll face a moment where the question doesn't come as a text, it comes as silence. And that's where this really gets tested. You're at work on a Tuesday afternoon. You send a normal message: "Hey, I'll be tied up tonight. Let's talk tomorrow." It's simple. Neutral. Clear. 10 minutes later, your phone buzzes. "So, are we okay?" Your stomach drops. You reread your original message. It wasn't cold. It wasn't distant. But now you're scanning it like it's evidence in a trial. You start typing fast. You explain your schedule. You add heart emojis. You soften your tone. You send reassurance layered with more reassurance. And for about 20 minutes, it works. Then tomorrow comes. And the question returns. Here's the microscript that changes the pattern. I'm not upset. I'm focused right now. We're okay. That's it. No paragraph. No emotional dissertation. No defensive energy. Why does this work? Because reassurance anxiety isn't about information, it's about emotional regulation. When someone repeatedly asks, "Are we okay?" they're not lacking facts. They're lacking internal steadiness. If you over-explain, you temporarily soothe them, but you also reinforce the idea that their anxiety requires external management. Your job is not to remove every ripple from someone else's nervous system. When you respond with calm brevity, you send 2 signals at once: stability and boundary. You're saying, "Nothing is wrong," while also saying, "I'm not going to escalate this." The key is your tone, not sharp, not irritated, not sarcastic. Just steady. Now let's make this real in a North American context. You're on a lunch break in Chicago. You step outside to take a call. They sound tense. You've been quiet today. Is something wrong? Your instinct is to overcorrect. You want to flood the space with warmth so they don't feel insecure. Instead, you pause for one breath. "I've just been focused on work. We're okay." Silence. They might push again. You sure? Here's where most people lose ground. They switch into emotional proof mode. Don't. Repeat with steadiness. Yes. I'm sure. That repetition is not coldness. It's consistent. Consistency builds safety more than emotional intensity ever will. Here's your tiny action for today. Limit reassurance to one clear response per loop. Not 3. Not 5. 1. If the question repeats in the same conversation, you don't upgrade your explanation. You repeat your steadiness. Now let's slow this down for a brief practice moment. Close your eyes for 10 seconds. Imagine someone asking, "Are you mad at me?" Notice your first impulse. Is it tension? Urgency? The need to fix? Now rehearse the line calmly in your mind. I'm not mad. We're okay. Say it without rushing. Without emotional padding. Feel what happens in your chest when you don't add extra explanation. This is the beginning of emotional independence. What most people don't realize is that constant reassurance keeps both people fragile. One becomes anxious. The other becomes responsible. That imbalance quietly erodes respect. You start feeling like a stabilizer instead of a partner. And over time, you become resentful. Not because you don't care, but because you're always regulating someone else's fear. This method interrupts that dynamic early. When you respond clearly and briefly, you teach the nervous system, yours and theirs, that nothing catastrophic is happening. You normalize small emotional fluctuations instead of dramatizing them. There's friction here. You might worry, what if they think I don't care? That's your fear of withdrawal talking. But calm clarity is not withdrawal. It's steadiness. If someone truly values connection, they will eventually adjust to your rhythm. If they only feel secure when you overfunction emotionally, that's information. And that information matters later. Because the real test isn't when things are calm. It's when tension rises and your instinct is to double your reassurance just to make the discomfort stop. What you practice now determines whether you stay grounded in that moment or fall back into emotional overwork. It's Friday night. You're sitting on the couch. You've already answered "Are we okay?" question twice this week. Things have felt normal. Light, even. Then you notice something small. Their tone in a text feels shorter than usual. Your chest tightens. You type, "Everything good?" They respond, "Yeah." That should be enough. But it's not. You stare at the screen. You start scanning. Was that "yeah" flat? Was it distant? Are they pulling away? You send another message. You seem off. Now you flipped roles. You're the one seeking reassurance. Here's the mistake. You believe uncertainty must be resolved immediately. That belief is what fuels reassurance anxiety on both sides. If every tiny emotional shift requires clarification, your relationship becomes a constant diagnostic session. The correction is not indifference. It's restraint. Here's the rule: not every emotional fluctuation needs investigation. And here's the script that protects you from spiraling. I'm noticing I feel anxious. I don't need to act on it right now. That sentence changes everything. Because instead of interrogating the relationship, you observe your nervous system. Let's break down why this works. When you feel that jolt of uncertainty, your brain interprets ambiguity as threat. It wants closure. It wants certainty. It wants immediate reassurance to quiet the discomfort. But certainty is not the same thing as safety. You can be safe without having everything clarified at the moment. In a North American context, think about a long-distance relationship across time zones. You're in Toronto. They're in Seattle. You send a thoughtful message before bed. They don't respond until morning. When they do, it's brief. Your mind starts writing stories. Instead of sending 3 follow-ups, you pause. I'm noticing I feel anxious. I don't need to act on it right now. You put the phone down. You redirect to something physical, wash dishes, take a short walk, make coffee. This is not avoidance. It's regulation. The anxiety spike will crest and fall if you don't feed it. Here's your tiny action for today: delay reassurance seeking by 15 minutes. Not forever. Just 15. If after 15 minutes you still feel the need to clarify something concrete, you can choose to communicate. But most of the time, the emotional wave softens. Now, let's do a brief pattern interrupt. Take one slow breath in through your nose for 4 seconds. Hold for 2. Exhale slowly for 6. Notice how even one controlled breath reduces urgency. That's the space where stability grows. A lot of reassurance anxiety hides behind a noble story: I just value communication. But honest communication and emotional chasing are not the same. Chasing sounds like, "Are you sure? Did I do something? You seem different." Grounded communication sounds like, "When you didn't respond yesterday, I felt unsure. I just want to check in." The difference is tone and timing. Grounded communication happens after regulation. Chasing happens during panic. If you constantly communicate from panic, your partner starts bracing for emotional intensity instead of feeling safe in connection. And here's the deeper truth: when you overseek reassurance, you accidentally train the relationship to revolve around anxiety instead of growth. Every time you urgently clarify something minor, you signal that small discomforts are emergencies. Over time, that creates fragility. The Stoic perspective here is simple: you do not control another person's emotional rhythm. You control your response to ambiguity. Ambiguity is not dangerous. Silence is not rejection. Short texts are not abandoned. But if you react as if they are, your nervous system never learns resilience. This matters later. Because there will be moments when the stakes are real, when you genuinely need to address a misalignment or boundary. If you've used emotional intensity for every small fluctuation, those real conversations lose clarity. Restraint now builds credibility later. When you practice pausing, observing, and delaying reassurance seeking, you build internal security. And internal security is magnetic. It stabilizes relationships instead of destabilizing them. In the next section, we'll pressure test this under a more intense scenario, when conflict actually happens and your instinct is to demand proof that everything is fine. That's where most people either grow or collapse back into panic. There's a common myth hiding underneath reassurance anxiety. If I don't address it immediately, it will grow. You believe that if you don't clarify tension right away, the relationship will silently deteriorate. That if you don't fix the feeling now, it becomes distant later. But here's the truth. Overmonitoring creates more instability than waiting ever does. Constantly checking the emotional temperature of a relationship is like digging up a plant every day to see if it's growing. You don't strengthen connection by inspecting it every hour. You weaken it. So here's the clear instruction. Separate discomfort from danger. Not every uncomfortable feeling means something is wrong. And here's the script that helps you stay steady under pressure. Nothing has actually happened. I'm responding to a feeling, not a fact. That line keeps you grounded. Now let's stress test this in a real scenario. You're at dinner with your partner and their friends in Chicago. They're laughing, engaged, energized. You feel slightly sidelined. They don't check in with you the way they usually do. Your stomach tightens. Your mind whispers, they're drifting. You're not important tonight. You feel the urge to pull them aside. To ask, are you okay with me? To subtly punish them with withdrawal. To change the energy. This is the pressure moment. Nothing explicit has happened. No insult. No exclusion. No disrespect. Just a feeling. Instead of reacting, you use the script. Nothing has actually happened. I'm responding to a feeling, not a fact. Then you slow your body. Notice your feet on the ground. Feel the chair under you. Take one steady breath. The goal is not to eliminate the feeling. The goal is to prevent the feeling from driving behavior. Because here's what escalation looks like. You pull them aside. You say, "You seem distant." They look confused. Now they feel accused. Now you're both tense. All because of an internal story. Now imagine you don't react. You let the dinner unfold. You engage someone else at the table. You stay present. Later, in the car, you calmly say, "Tonight I felt a little disconnected. I just wanted to share that." That's stable communication. You waited until your nervous system settled. You spoke from clarity, not urgency. This is how you prevent reassurance anxiety from turning into a power struggle. Another high-pressure example. You haven't heard from them all day. Normally you text in the afternoon. Today, silence. By evening, your brain is racing. They're losing interest. They met someone else. They're pulling away. Again, nothing concrete has happened. Instead of sending "Are we okay?" you return to the rule. Separate discomfort from danger. Discomfort, "I feel uncertain." Danger, there is actual betrayal or disrespect. You have discomfort, not danger. So you delay action. You focus on your own routine, gym, meal prep, reading, work task. You refuse to let your entire emotional state hinge on one notification. That is strength. Here's the slow practice moment. Place one hand lightly on your chest. Inhale slowly. Exhale longer than you inhale. Say internally, "I can tolerate uncertainty." Because that's what this really is. You are training tolerance for emotional ambiguity. And ambiguity is unavoidable in adult relationships. The Stoic idea here is not emotional suppression. It's emotional governance. You don't deny what you feel, but you don't hand it to the steering wheel either. If you respond to every insecurity immediately, you train yourself to believe you cannot survive discomfort. If you stay steady through minor uncertainty, you build internal proof of safety. That proof changes your posture in the relationship. You stop scanning. You stop overtexting. You stop looking for tone shifts. You start living. And here's the key point: when you stop overreacting to small fluctuations, your partner relaxes. The relationship becomes less fragile. Ironically, the stability you were chasing through reassurance appears when you stop chasing. But this doesn't mean you never speak up. It means you speak up when there is substance. In the next section, we'll bring all of this into one integrated moment, where insecurity, silence, and fear collide at once. And you'll see how the tools work together without turning into emotional shutdown or emotional chaos. Because the goal isn't to become detached. It's to become grounded. You're on the couch in your apartment in Denver. It's 9:40 p.m. The TV is on, but you're not watching it. Your phone is in your hand. They said they'd call after dinner with coworkers. It's been 2 hours. You've already checked their Instagram story. Nothing new. You've opened your messages 3 times just to confirm there's no missed notification. You've typed "Hey, everything okay?" and erased it twice. Your chest feels tight. Not dramatic. Just unsettled. This is the moment. The old pattern starts rising. They forgot. They don't prioritize you. You're the only one who cares this much. You feel small. Slightly embarrassed for caring this much. Slightly angry that you do. This is where reassurance anxiety usually takes control. But tonight, you haven't moved yet. First, you apply the separation rule. Discomfort or danger? You asked it plainly. Has anything actually happened? No canceled plans. No broken agreement. No harsh words. Just silence. Discomfort, not danger. You say the script quietly in your mind. Nothing has actually happened. I'm responding to a feeling, not a fact. It doesn't erase the anxiety. But it slows it. You put the phone face down on the coffee table. Your body still feels activated, so you move to the second tool, return to body. Feet flat on the floor. Slow inhale. Longer exhale. You place your hand lightly on your chest and say internally, I can tolerate uncertainty. Your nervous system resists. It wants resolution. It wants control. But you stay. The urge to text spikes again. A quick hit of relief is only one message away. You almost grab the phone. This is the old reaction of almost winning. You picture the sequence clearly. You text, are we okay? They respond casually, yeah, I'm just out. Why? Now you feel exposed. Overreactive. Slightly ashamed. The reassurance gives you temporary relief, but it reinforces the belief that you cannot handle ambiguity alone. So you don't send it. Instead, you choose redirection. You stand up. You go to the kitchen. You pour a glass of water. You open your laptop and spend 15 minutes finishing a small work task you left undone. You're not ignoring your feelings. You're refusing to let them dominate your behavior. After 20 minutes, your body feels different. Still slightly tight, but not hijacked. At 10:18 p.m., your phone lights up. Sorry, I got caught up. Calling now. Your chest loosens instantly. But here's the important part. Even if that text had not come, you already stabilized yourself. The security didn't come from their message. It came from your steadiness. They call. The conversation is normal. Easy. They apologize casually for losing track of time. You notice something. There's no sharpness in your tone. No hidden accusation. No passive-aggressive edge. Because you didn't spiral, there's nothing to correct. Later that week, a different moment happens. You're at a friend's birthday dinner. They're quiet. Distracted. Not as affectionate as usual. The insecurity flickers again. This time, instead of scanning for proof or pulling them aside mid-event, you wait. You stay present. You engage someone else at the table. You allow the discomfort without turning it into a storyline. On the drive home, calmly, you say, tonight I felt a little disconnected. I just wanted to share that. No accusation. No panic. No are we okay? Just information. They respond, yeah, I had a stressful call before dinner. I wasn't fully there. That's it. No drama. No emotional escalation. You realize something important. Your anxiety wasn't wrong. It was incomplete. It noticed a shift, but it rushed to interpret it as a threat. Now, you're giving yourself space to gather data before reacting. This is what internal security looks like in motion. Not numbness. Not indifference. Measured response. The reassurance anxiety may still whisper sometimes. That part of you doesn't disappear overnight. But now it has competition. The grounded part. The part that can sit on a couch in silence and not self-destruct. The part that can wait through ambiguity. The part that can say, I don't need to solve this immediately. And here's what changes over time. You stop over-texting. You stop tone-analyzing every message. You stop making small fluctuations mean big conclusions. The relationship becomes lighter. Because you're lighter. There's still uncertainty in love. There always will be. But uncertainty no longer feels like danger. It feels tolerable. And that subtle shift, from urgency to steadiness, is what builds real emotional safety. Not from them. From you. And it's still ongoing. You're still practicing. But now you know the difference between a feeling that needs compassion and a situation that needs correction. That difference is everything. The core lesson is this: reacting chases relief, responding builds stability. When you react, you try to eliminate discomfort as fast as possible. When you respond, you tolerate discomfort long enough to see clearly. One path makes you scattered and dependent on reassurance. The other makes you steady and intentional, even while your feelings are loud. First, you saw the exact moment reassurance anxiety begins: the couch, the silence, the spinning story in your head. Then you separated discomfort from danger so you could stop treating every pause like a threat. Next, you interrupted the urge to text with a grounded sentence that slowed the spiral. After that, you returned to your body so your nervous system could settle before your mind tried to solve anything. Then you practiced redirecting your attention instead of demanding instant relief. Finally, you watched what happens when steadiness replaces urgency: conversations soften, tension drops, and your tone stays clean. This is not about becoming emotionally distant. It's about becoming emotionally anchored. You're not trying to need less. You're learning to panic less. There's a big difference. When you seek reassurance from fear, you hand over your stability. When you communicate from steadiness, you keep your dignity intact. And dignity is what makes relationships feel safe long-term. Now let's lock this in with 3 do-today steps. Step 1. Create a 20-minute pause rule. The next time you feel the urge to ask, "Are we okay?" wait exactly 20 minutes before sending anything. During those 20 minutes, repeat the line, "Nothing has actually happened. I'm responding to a feeling, not a fact." Do not analyze. Do not scroll. Just wait. You are retraining your nervous system to survive uncertainty. Step 2. Use the discomfort or danger filter in writing. Open your notes app and write 2 headings: discomfort and danger. When anxiety hits, list the actual evidence under each column. If danger is empty, you do nothing yet. This makes your brain move from emotion to evaluation. Step 3. Replace reassurance-seeking with clean communication. Instead of "Are we okay?" use, "Earlier I felt a little disconnected, and I just wanted to share that." That's it. No accusation. No loaded tone. Just clarity. You are informing, not interrogating. If you practice these 3 steps consistently, something powerful happens. Your partner feels less pressure. You feel less shame. The dynamic stabilizes. And if you want to go one layer deeper, the next skill to build is emotional self-trust under silence. A helpful follow-up would be something like, emotional control: how to stay calm when someone pulls back. That's the next layer, because reassurance anxiety often spikes when attention shifts. Learning to stay steady when energy changes is what transforms temporary calm into long-term security. Remember this: you are not too much for wanting connection. The issue is not your desire. The issue is the speed at which fear takes over your behavior. Slow the speed. That's the work. You can want reassurance and still choose steadiness. You can feel anxious and still respond calmly. You can notice insecurity without obeying it. Every time you pause instead of panic, you strengthen internal security. Every time you speak clearly instead of seeking proof, you protect your dignity. Every time you tolerate uncertainty without collapsing, you grow. Security is not something someone else gives you repeatedly. It's something you practice internally until it becomes your default posture. And the more you practice, the less you'll need constant confirmation. You'll still care. You'll still feel. But you won't unravel. That's emotional control. If this kind of calm, practical training helps you stay steady in real relationship moments, subscribe for more lessons that strengthen your emotional control week after week. Stay steady.